In this talk, we will learn about the energy flow in ecosystems. Energy is defined as the capacity or ability to do work. Energy is essential for living organisms because it drives many metabolic pathways that are needed for organisms to survive. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can be converted from one form to another. Thus, energy can exist in various forms. This includes light, chemical bond energy, motion, heat, and many others. Earth functions as an open system for energy, and hence it is able to obtain energy from sources outside of the planet. The major source of energy is the sun. The energy from the sun is used by organisms present on Earth to drive physiological processes. When organisms use chemical bond or light energy for metabolic processes, it should be noted that some of that energy is always converted to heat. Heat is usually lost to the environment, and hence it cannot be used to perform work. The organisms that are able to synthesize organic compounds from inorganic precursors are autotrophs. They are also called as self-feeders. Photoautotrophs are those organisms that are able to obtain energy from light. Chemoautotrophs, on the other hand, are organisms that are able to obtain energy from inorganic chemical molecules and hence perform oxidation reactions to obtain energy. Many different types of prokaryotes are present that are chemoautotrophs. Whether an organism is a photoautotroph or a chemoautotroph, it has the ability to synthesize organic compounds from inorganic precursors. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, cannot synthesize organic compounds from inorganic precursors. Hence, they derive their carbon compounds from other organisms. Organisms on Earth can be arranged into trophic structures, which show the feeding relationships between the organisms in a community. The trophic level is the position that an organism occupies in the food chain. The food chains link the trophic levels from producers to carnivores. There are different trophic levels. The first trophic level are the primary producers. These are autotrophic organisms. They can be photoautotrophs like plants and cyanobacteria or chemoautotrophs like other types of prokaryotes. All other trophic levels are consumers. These consumers are heterotrophs. There are different trophic levels among consumers. The trophic level 2 is that of the herbivores, and it is the first consumer level. The herbivores are able to obtain their energy from the primary producers. The third trophic level are the primary carnivores. These organisms eat herbivores that belong to trophic level 2 in order to obtain their energy. The next trophic level is trophic level 4, where we can find the secondary carnivores. These organisms can eat primary carnivores or some herbivores, and thus they're able to obtain their energy. The next group are the detritivores. These are organisms that eat dead or decaying matter. Detritivores include organisms like animals, including vultures, but they can also include microbes that break up the dead matter. Such microbes are also called as decomposers. All organisms use chemical energy in order to synthesize new organic matter or biomass. The productivity is defined as the rate at which these organisms present in trophic levels synthesize this new organic matter. Primary productivity is the productivity of the primary producers, and hence is a measure of how much organic matter is produced by the primary producers. Secondary productivity, on the other hand, is the productivity of heterotrophic levels. Since primary producers are the main source of chemical energy, scientists have defined the gross primary productivity as the rate at which primary producers synthesize new organic matter. Now, some of this organic matter produced is broken down during respiration in order to obtain energy that drives different processes in the primary producers. Thus, the net primary productivity is defined as the rate at which the energy stored as biomass is available to consumers. The net primary productivity can be calculated as the gross primary productivity minus respiration. The available chemical bond energy decreases as the energy passes from one trophic level to the next. Let us take an example of a grasshopper that's feeding on leaves. It is able to obtain chemical energy by eating the leaves. Now, of the 100% of energy that was consumed, 70% of that is converted into the insect biomass. Now, this energy can now be available to the next consumer, which would be any organism that eats the grasshopper. 33% of the ingested energy is used by the grasshopper for cellular respiration, and hence it cannot be passed on to the next consumer because it is being used to drive the different processes that happen in the grasshopper's body. The remaining 50% of the ingested energy is not assimilated in the body at all and is thrown out or excreted in the form of feces. This way, we are able to see that the available chemical bond energy that the grasshopper obtained from the leaves, which was 100%, it used only 17% of it to form its biomass. Thus, the available chemical bond energy decreases as energy is passed from one trophic level to the next. It is estimated that the amount of chemical bond energy that is available to the next trophic level is 10% of what was available to the previous level over that same period of time. Let us take the example of primary producers and herbivores. Herbivores will get around 10% or 1/10 of the chemical bond energy that the primary producers obtained. When we go from primary producers to primary carnivores, they will actually get only 1/100th of that chemical bond energy because they're getting 1/10 of the chemical bond of energy available in herbivores. Similarly, secondary carnivores will be getting 1/10 of what the primary carnivores obtained, and hence secondary carnivores will obtain 1/1000th of the available chemical bond energy. Thus, we are able to see a decrease in the chemical bond energy as we move from one trophic level to the next. The number of trophic levels that are present in an ecosystem is limited by the availability of energy in the environment. The exponential decline of the chemical bond energy puts limitations on the trophic levels. It limits the length of the trophic chains, which is the number of feeding links that begins from the basal species or the primary producers all the way to the top predator. It can also limit the number of top carnivores that the ecosystem can support. When we say number of top carnivores, we mean the population size of these secondary carnivores. This is because only 1/1000th of the energy from photosynthesis actually passes to these secondary carnivores. And hence, there's not much energy available, which causes the secondary carnivore population to remain small. Let us look at an example of the flow of energy through the trophic levels present in a lake called as the Cayuga Lake. In this case, the primary producers, which are the algae, cyanobacteria, and plants, are able to obtain 1,000 calories of energies through their primary productivity. Now, this energy can then be passed on to the other trophic levels, and here we are seeing examples of herbivores that are feeding on these primary producers, and they obtain 150 calories. The smelt, on the other hand, are able to obtain energy from the herbivores, and the smelt can pass on this chemical energy to trout or to humans. Humans, on the other hand, are able to feed on smelt or trout to obtain their own chemical energy. Now, if humans ate the smelt that is present in that lake, then they're actually able to obtain only 6 calories out of the 1,000 calories that was originally present in the primary producers. On the other hand, if the humans went ahead and ate the trout, which is at the next trophic level compared to the smelt, the humans will obtain only 1.2 calories of the original 1,000 calories. Thus, we are able to see a difference in the amount of energy that is being transferred from one trophic level to another. It has been shown that biodiversity can actually stabilize organisms at different trophic levels. Biodiversity is the types of species that are present in a region. The more the number of species, the more the biodiversity is present in a region. This is called as species richness. Now, species richness may actually increase the stability of an ecosystem, and they're able to do so in a variety of ways. An experiment was performed by David Tillman where he compared land plots that had varying levels of species richness. What he found was that the land plots with more species showed less year-to-year variation in their biomass. He also found that such land plots had less number of invading species and were more resilient during drought. Furthermore, he found that there was more primary productivity in general. This increased primary productivity allowed more energy flow to the remaining trophic levels in these land plots. Thus, biodiversity is able to stabilize ecosystem by allowing efficient flow of energy through the different trophic levels. Species richness is influenced by different characteristics of the ecosystem. One such characteristic is the primary productivity. When there's more primary productivity, then there's more chemical energy available to support other types of species in the ecosystem. Habitat heterogeneity can also influence species richness. When the habitat is heterogeneous, it can accommodate more species. Climatic factors also influence species richness. However, they are hard to predict. There are species that may be expected to coexist in certain seasonal environments than in a constant one, because a changing climate can favor some species over the other during different parts of the year, and hence it enhances species richness. However, if there are too many fluctuations in the climate, it may be detrimental and thus reduce species richness. Hence, climatic factors and their influence on species richness are hard to predict. With this, we come to the end of our talk where we learned about energy and the flow of energy in ecosystems. We learned about the trophic structure and different trophic levels, as well as primary and secondary productivity. We learned about the transfer of energy from one trophic level to another and the role of biodiversity in maintaining the stability of ecosystems.